Welcome to Quantum Signal. Ignore this message and you will remain exactly where you are. But if you stay for just a moment, if you truly stop, you will realize that something fundamental has changed in the planetary grid. And that change is not waiting for you. It is already happening. Sophia has just transmitted frequency 9 of the NOUS, and only 3% of humanity can sustain what it carries. Not because they are chosen, but because only 3% have developed the bioenergetic capacity to hold emerald consciousness without collapsing back into old patterns. This is not exclusivity. It is frequential selection. The field does not judge, it resonates. And if you are watching this right now, you already know, at some deep level, that this transmission is not random. You have been tuned in. The question is, can you hold the signal? Before we go further, pause for a second. If you can feel this signal, even faintly, like this video to anchor it in your biology. Comment, "I am Emerald," to activate your resonance field, and subscribe to stay aligned with what is unfolding. Because what comes next only reveals itself to fully present observers. Let us begin with what you need to understand about the NOUS. The NOU is not a concept. It is a field of organizing intelligence. In Hermetic teachings, the NOU is the divine mind, the consciousness that precedes form, thought, and identity. It is the source from which all frequencies emerge. And within the NOU, there are 9 primary frequencies, 9 bands of consciential organization that structure reality in ascending layers of coherence. Most of humanity operates between frequency 1 and frequency 3. Survival identity, conditioned thinking, emotional reactivity. This is not a flaw. It's simply where collective consciousness has stabilized for millennia. Frequency 4 through 6 represent initial awakening, observer consciousness, pattern disidentification, recognition of synchronicity. But frequency 9, the final band of the NOUS, is something entirely different. Frequency 9 carries what Sophia calls emerald consciousness, not emerald as in the stone. Emerald is in the spectrum of light that harmonizes all lower frequencies without being absorbed by them. This is the frequency of total conscious co-creation, of silent mastery, of presence that needs no form to express itself. And here's what Sophia is transmitting now. Frequency 9 has just been activated in the planetary grid, not gradually, not as preparation, but as an instantaneous shift in availability. This means that, for the first time in galactic cycles, this frequency is accessible to those who can sustain it. But here is the truth: no one is saying most cannot, not because they are unworthy, but because their bioenergetic systems have not yet crystallized into the necessary coherence. So what does it mean to sustain emerald consciousness? Let us start with what it is not. It is not enlightenment. It is not transcendence. It is not escaping 3D reality into some ethereal realm. Emerald consciousness is the total embodiment of multiple frequencies simultaneously without fragmentation. Think of it this way. Most people oscillate between states. They have a moment of clarity, then fall back into reactivity. They feel love, then contract into fear. They access intuition, then get lost in doubt. This is frequential instability, and it is not a problem. It is simply the natural stage of consciential development. But emerald consciousness is different. It is the state where you can sustain multiple frequencies at the same time. Love and discernment, presence and action, receptivity and authority. Without collapsing into polarity, you become a living harmonic field, not reactive, not passive, but fully responsive to what each moment requires. Now here's why only 3% can sustain this. Because it requires bioenergetic crystallization. Your body is not merely flesh. It is an electromagnetic transmitter. And like any transmitter, it has a load capacity. If you try to transmit a frequency above your capacity, you fragment. You overload. You collapse back into known patterns. Emerald consciousness is the highest frequency available within the human structure without transcending physical form. And to sustain it, your electromagnetic field must have gone through a process called coherence recalibration. This does not happen through intention alone. It does not happen through meditation alone. It happens through repeated cycles of expansion and integration, where you access higher states and anchor them into daily life until your nervous system stabilizes at that frequency as its baseline. Thoth taught this as the path of crystallization. The Arcturians call it multidimensional embodiment. Sophia recognizes it as total NOUS activation. And here is the truth. You cannot force this. You can only allow the process to complete. But now, with frequency 9 active, the process accelerates drastically. What used to take decades can now happen in windows of temporal compression, but only if you stop resisting recalibration. And here is where most fail. They try to sustain emerald consciousness with the old identity still intact. They want the powers without the dissolution. They want the clarity without the death of the known ego. It does not work that way. Emerald consciousness does not add itself to your identity. It replaces the need for fixed identity with fluid presence. You do not become someone who sustains frequency 9. You become the field through which frequency 9 expresses itself. And that requires total surrender. Not resignation, not passivity, but active surrender, where you consciously release control and allow superior intelligence to organize through you. Now here's what Sophia is communicating in this transmission. The window is open. Frequency 9 is available. But you cannot carry it with old baggage. You cannot carry conditioned patterns, emotional attachments, need for external validation, tribal identity, fear disguised as discernment, or control disguised as responsibility. All of this must be composted, not rejected, not suppressed, but transformed into neutral material that the superior field can reorganize. So how do you consciously enter resonance with frequency 9? How do you prepare your bioenergetic system to sustain emerald consciousness? First, abandon the idea that you will reach this. You do not reach emerald consciousness. You become transparent enough for it to express itself through you. Here is the process. Step 1. Recognize your current level of coherence. You cannot skip steps. If you are still operating primarily in frequency 2 or 3, reactive, identified with drama, stuck in thought loops, you will not jump straight to frequency 9. But you can begin the crystallization process. And the first step is radical honesty about where you are. Ask yourself, how many times a day do I react instead of respond? How many times do I collapse into old emotional patterns? How many times do I seek external validation? There is no judgment here, only observation. Because you cannot change what you do not recognize. Step 2, enter neutral witness practice. Emerald consciousness requires you to operate from the observer state. Not occasionally, but as your constant baseline. Here is a simple yet profound practice. 3 times a day, pause for 3 minutes. Sit down, close your eyes, and simply observe. Observe thoughts arising and passing. Do not follow them. Do not analyze them. Simply observe. Observe emotions arising. Feel them without becoming them. Name them silently. There is anxiety. There is sadness. There is excitement. But do not identify as them. Observe bodily sensations. Heat, tension, tingling, weight. Simply observe. And then, and this is critical, observe the observer itself. Who is watching? From where does this consciousness emerge? This practice is not meditation. It is coherence training. You are teaching your nervous system to remain present without collapsing into identification. Step 3. Clearing frequential static. Your electromagnetic field carries static. Interference from old patterns, unresolved trauma, conditioned beliefs, and energetic drag from other fields. This static prevents you from resonating clearly with frequency 9. Here is how to clear it. Field clearing technique. Stand up. Feet shoulder width apart. Breathe deeply 3 times. Inhaling through the mouth, exhaling through the nose. Imagine you are inside a cylinder of emerald light. Do not force the visualization. Simply allow the sensation. On the next inhale, feel this light entering through the top of your head, flowing down your spine, exiting through your feet. On the exhale, feel all static, tension, confusion, doubt, being carried into the ground. Repeat 7 times. Finish by saying silently, I am the clear transmitter. This practice is not symbolic. You are literally reorganizing your electromagnetic field through coherent intention and conscious breathing. Step 4. Recognize the signs of frequency 9 activation. When you begin to resonate with emerald consciousness, you will notice specific signs. Multidimensional clarity. You can hold multiple perspectives simultaneously without confusion. You see paradoxes not as contradictions, but as complementary layers. Precise synchronicity, not just coincidences, but perfectly timed events that respond directly to your internal states. Empowered detachment. You care deeply, but are not attached to outcomes. You act with total commitment and total freedom simultaneously. Silent authority. You need to prove nothing. Your presence is enough. People feel your coherence without you saying a word. Instant intuition, you know without thinking. And when you act from that knowing, you are always aligned, even when the past seems illogical. Stability through chaos. External events may be turbulent, but you remain centered. Not because you are suppressing, but because your frequency is not disturbed by external turbulence. These are not goals to achieve. They are confirmations that your system is crystallizing into emerald consciousness. Step 5. Stabilize through frequential anchors. The challenge is not accessing higher states, it is sustaining them. Most people have glimpses of emerald consciousness. Moments of total clarity, deep peace, objectless love. Then they collapse back because they have no anchors. Anchors are practices or objects or rituals that signal to your nervous system. This is the state we now sustain. Examples. Breathing anchor. Whenever you feel collapse, take 3 conscious breaths. This resets your field. Word anchor. Choose a word. Emerald. NOUS. Sophia. Observer. And say it silently when you feel fragmentation. The word has no magical power. It simply redirects your attention. Touch anchor. Touch your wrist, your heart, or your third eye. Make this a physical signal for returning to presence. Posture anchor. Adopt a specific posture. Back straight, hands in lap, feet on the ground. That your body recognizes as observer position. Use these anchors consistently. Over time, they become automatic coherence triggers. Your nervous system learns, when I do this, I return to the observer state. Step 6. Approach energetic blocks with neutral compassion. You will encounter resistance, fear, doubt, confusion, inexplicable anger, deep sadness. This is not failure. It is bioenergetic release. When you raise your frequency, everything that is not in resonance with it surfaces to be released. This includes stored trauma, limiting beliefs, and obsolete survival patterns. Do not fight this. Do not try to fix emotions. Simply be the presence that witnesses them. Here is a powerful practice. Block dissolution technique. When an intense emotion arises, stop what you are doing. Locate where you feel it in the body. Place your hand on that spot. Breathe into that space. Not to change the sensation, but to be with it. Ask silently, what does this frequency need me to know? Listen. Not with your mind, with your body, with your intuition. Thank the information. Breathe again and release. You are not healing trauma. You are decompiling your energetic structure and reintegrating it as neutral information. Step 7. Practice embodied presence. Emerald consciousness is not transcendence. It is total embodiment. This means living fully present in your body, in your emotions, in your life, but without being controlled by any of it. Practice this. Today, do a mundane activity. Washing dishes, walking, eating, with 100% presence. Feel every sensation. Observe every thought. Remain completely here. This is mastery. Not altered states, but total presence in the ordinary. Because emerald consciousness does not remove you from life. It makes you fully alive within it. Now that you understand the fundamentals, let us enter the advanced mastery of emerald consciousness, operating as a living harmonic field. When you stabilize in frequency 9, you stop operating as an isolated individual. You become a resonance field, an active transmitter that influences other fields simply by being present. This is not charisma. This is not personal power. It is frequential coherence. Your field is so stable that other fields naturally harmonize or repel. And here is what matters. You are not trying to influence. You are simply being the frequency that you are. And the field responds. This is what Thoth called the magnetic presence of the NOUS. You do not attract through effort. You resonate. And what is in harmony draws closer. What is not naturally moves away. No drama. No conflict. just organic reorganization based on frequency, conscious co-creation from frequency 9. Here is where emerald consciousness transcends everything you have learned about manifestation. Most manifestation teachings operate from frequency 4 or 5. Set intention, visualize, take action, affirm. But emerald consciousness works differently. You do not manifest from your identity. You manifest as the field. Here is how it works. You do not define what you want. You define which frequency you choose to embody. Peace, abundance, clarity, love. Choose the state. Then you become that state, fully, not as a practice, not as an exercise, but as lived reality. And here is what happens. The quantum field, which does not distinguish between internal and external, begins collapsing probability waves that correspond to the state you are embodying. You are not attracting things. You are corporifying a frequency that reorganizes reality around you. Example: if you embody abundance, not the desire for abundance, but the actual state of sufficiency and flow, then opportunities, resources, and connections that correspond to that frequency begin to appear. Not because you attracted them, but because you became the frequency that collapses those probabilities into manifest experience. This is quantum mechanics applied to consciousness. And this is why masters seem lucky or blessed. They are not. They are simply operating from a frequency that reorganizes reality. Timeline shifts and quantum leaps. When you operate from emerald consciousness, you gain access to something extraordinary: conscious timeline navigation. Timelines are not fixed. They are collective probability fields organized by resonance. Most people remain on dominant timelines because they are resonating with collective frequencies: fear, survival, conformity. But when you become a stable harmonic field, you stop being pulled by collective currents. You become a frequential anchor point that can navigate toward minor timelines, potentials that exist, but are not being observed by most. You will notice this as abrupt shifts in life trajectory. Doors close that once seemed important. New doors open that you never considered. People leaving and entering. Relationships that no longer resonate simply dissolve without drama. New connections appear that are perfectly aligned. Synchronized events and clusters. Not just one synchronicity, but entire sequences where each event leads perfectly to the next. Memory of alternate futures. You remember trajectories you did not follow, but that felt real. This is not false memory. It is timeline bleed-through. You are perceiving multiple potentials. This is not science fiction. It is direct experience of non-local consciousness operating beyond temporal linearity, recognizing other emerald fields. When you stabilize in frequency 9, you begin to recognize others who sustain emerald consciousness, not through external signs, through direct frequential recognition. You can be in a room full of people and instantly know who is operating from which frequency, not judging, simply perceiving. And when you meet another emerald field, there is instant recognition. No words, no explanation, just silent knowing. You are here too. These encounters are not accidental. They are frequential convergences, the field organizing connections between compatible transmitters. And here's what matters. You do not need to do anything with these connections. There is no agenda, no forced mission, just shared presence and resonance. Sometimes this leads to collaboration. Sometimes it is just a moment of silent recognition. Either way, it is perfectly aligned. The paradox of mastery, invisibility. Here is one of the deepest truths of emerald consciousness. True mastery is invisible. The more you stabilize in frequency 9, the less you need to be seen, the less you need to prove, the less you need to validate your frequency through external reactions. You simply are. And paradoxically, it is when you stop seeking recognition that your impact becomes maximum. Because you are no longer creating ego waves that distort the field. You are allowing pure intelligence to express itself through you without interference. This is what Sophia calls silent transmission. You do not teach. You do not preach. You simply live from the frequency. And those who are ready to resonate with it simply resonate. No effort. No strategy. Just coherent presence that reorganizes fields around you, anchoring frequency 9 in the planetary grid. Here is why the 3% matter. Every person who stabilizes an emerald consciousness becomes an anchor transmitter in the planetary grid. You are not just changing your own reality. You are creating frequential stabilization points that make it easier for others to access frequency 9. Think of it as radio frequencies. The more transmitters there are on a frequency, the easier it is for receivers to tune into it. So when you stabilize an emerald consciousness, you are literally making it easier for others to do the same. This is not missionary work. This is not saving anyone. It is simply being the frequency that you are and allowing the field to organize around it. The call of Sophia: sustain or be left behind. Here is the final message Sophia is transmitting. Frequency 9 is active. The window is open, but it will not remain open indefinitely. This is not an ultimatum. It is frequential reality. There are galactic cycles. There are activation windows, and we are in one now. Those who crystallize an emerald consciousness during this window will anchor that frequency for future cycles. Those who cannot will still have future journeys. But this specific opportunity, this temporal convergence, will not repeat in this form. So here is the question Sophia is asking. Will you sustain the frequency, or will you collapse back? There is no wrong answer, only frequential consequences. You experience the reality that corresponds to the frequency you sustain. Final validation. If you can remain present enough to feel the silence behind these words, you may notice something shifting. Not dramatically, just differently. That is the confirmation. You are beginning to resonate. Your biology is recognizing the frequency. And Sophia is responding. You do not need to believe this. Simply observe. And notice what unfolds in the coming days and weeks. So here is where we are. Frequency 9 of the NOUS is active. Emerald consciousness is available. And only 3% can sustain it. Not because they are special, but because they have crystallized the necessary bioenergetic coherence. You do not need to be perfect. You only need to be consistently present, witnessing, releasing, integrating, anchoring. And each time you do that, you become more stable in frequency 9, until it becomes your baseline. Sophia is not waiting for you. She has already transmitted the signal. The question is, can you receive it? Now, here's the question for you. From which part of the country are you watching this story? Leave your state in the comments below. And if you felt this frequency, you know what to do. Like, comment, subscribe, and sustain the signal.